Hey, what's up, everybody? We're here on the Spooky Mang podcast.
That's what it's all about.
If you want to even call it that. Second installment. First time we did this. We did this a couple months ago. We haven't done this in like a year.
Yeah.
Because we were just like, procrastinating on it really hard. We've watched a lot of horror movies, a lot of good horror movies over the past like year and a half or whatever. But just never got around to doing it. And then we did. We picked out a few select movies. And, the editor we were using, it wasn't working. It wasn't converting the audio, and we couldn't make it into a whole thing. We decided overall that it'd probably just be best to redo it. We're a little bit better prepared now,
This is like a remake.
Exactly. It's, the remix, if you want to think about it like that. Yeah. So, here we are. We're going to be talking about a couple movies today. Sean, what are we talking about?
We got Burning Moon, which I've seen. I watched that movie.
That's true.
You have not watched that movie. That's the only one that...
I haven't watched that movie.
Yeah. But the other two movies we both watched.
What are they?
Possum, which I don't know when we're going to... Which order we're talking about these, but we'll figure it out. Yeah. Possum, and then Blood Tide, which we watched today together.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
As of recording.
Yeah.
We watched
That's true.
Yeah.
When we first did this, we didn't really, we just kind of decided just to do it on the spot, but now we are definitely more prepared. We're actually, we've watched them together and stuff like that. No guest on this episode, but that's okay. We're not always going to have guests. I don't know, it's just the two of us.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're going to start off with 1992's The Burning Moon.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to talk to us about that, Trent, I mean, overall thoughts. What did you think about it? What did you think about the quality of characters? I mean,
characters are a very unimportant thing in this movie. I think this is a German movie, 1992. Olaf Ittenbach, German shot on video, horror gore movie icon, I guess, in a lot of people's minds. He also did that movie Black Past, which is pretty similar to this one. I watched that movie. Don't remember a lot of it. I might have to rewatch it. Maybe we'll talk about it on here. I don't know.
Maybe.
Burning Moon is a movie that I have been very conflicted about for a long time, ever since I saw it, because my emotions fluctuated a lot. The longer I thought about this movie, because the initial thing is this movie's really fucking gross. A lot of horrible stuff happens in this movie.
Yeah.
And so I think the initial feeling might be like, I can't like this movie. This movie can't be good.
Yeah.
And, that might be fair. I wouldn't say that this is a great movie or anything.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a pseudo-anthology movie.
Yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 main sections of the movie, and probably 2 or 3 different stories that happen throughout the course of the movie. And the first part is kind of like a slasher, kind of uninteresting. One of the funniest parts of the movies happens during that point in the movie, though, when the guy gets hit. There's a guy who gets hit by a car. I don't really remember who he's even supposed to be, but it's a dummy. It's a very obvious dummy who gets hit by this car and just goes flying. Blood is spraying everywhere. And that's one of the funniest parts of this movie. And I kind of felt guilty watching this movie and thinking that some of it was funny. Because there's definitely parts of it that aren't funny, like horrible shit that happens that aren't not really funny.
Like the priest.
Yeah, the priest character who shows up in the last part of the movie.
Up.
Who's like the catalyst for the most fucked up part of the movie that probably everybody who knows about this movie knows about, which is like the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Which is an extended scene of this person's vision of hell that then goes into an extended torture sequence that is very violent, and it's all very violent. This movie is very bloody. I don't know what the budget was for blood on this movie, but...
In the thousands.
Thousands of German dollars. But overall, I would say this movie is fun, I guess. If you're into that kind of thing, it's fun. If you are sensitive to certain topics like sexual assault, very graphic violence, drug abuse, implied child murder, not a very good movie for you. But if you are into the the gross sort of gore shock movies, if you like shot-on-video movies, this is a pretty good movie because it feels like a weird, violent, psychedelic, like after-school special almost. Just the music and the way it's shot looks like something that would be playing on like CBS in the afternoon or something. But then you
Arthur.
But then you see like the actual content of it, and it's like definitely not like that at all.
I can understand that from seeing some of the footage. I haven't seen it, but like he was talking about, I watched the hell scene a little bit before, doing this podcast because I wanted to see it. I've been wanting to see it for a while. Apparently it was up for free on like YouTube?
It was on YouTube for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And I guess it just recently got removed.
I think it recently had like a remaster or like a reissue or something. And that might be why.
Probably.
I don't remember who did it. I don't think it was Arrow Videos.
Probably not.
No.
Probably not.
I don't know if it was. I don't think it was, though. I wouldn't completely put it past Arrow Videos to do something like that, just because they've done like a lot of really great remasters to some lesser-known horror movies, slashers included. But, this feels like maybe like a little bit of a weird spot for Arrow Videos to hit on,
Yeah, it's a little more obscure than the normal stuff. I'm not going to say this is like the most like obscure movie ever, because it's definitely, I don't even think like an average horror fan would know about this movie.
I'm just going to say I'm with you on that. I never had heard of it until you told me about it, and I don't know a lot of people who would. Like, average horror fans wouldn't know about this, and even horror fans that are, big into the horror genre maybe wouldn't know about this. This is like a German movie and shit, and I don't know.
I feel like once you get into the territory of like shocking, like extreme cinema, though, I think people might be like, oh, you don't know Burning Moon?
Yeah.
But when it comes to just like horror fans, I think Burning Moon might be a little more, definitely more on the obscure side.
It's outside the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Especially for a lot of like slashers. I feel like horror fans in America are like the slasher oriented horror fans of the world. I mean, I don't know, maybe someone's got a problem with me saying that, but I don't know. I would say most of my friends that like horror movies are definitely on the slasher side. Shout out to Madero. He mostly knows like slasher movies, and he likes ghost movies too. But I wouldn't even say like the American take on ghost stories is like the best. If you look at like the onryos like of like Japan and stuff like that, I'd say I like their ghost stories more often than I like the ones here.
The only country I can really think of that comes close when it comes to like slasher fanaticism is probably like Italy. But they have like their own brand of like horror movies where it's like, no matter what, it almost feels like, oh, this is definitely like an Italian movie. Yeah. No matter what it is, even if it's like a zombie movie.
It's a vibe.
There's a dreamy sort of quality to it. Yeah. This movie, it definitely has that dreamy sort of quality too, because it's a story being told from, the in the mind of a child from her drug-addicted older brother. Yeah. So it does have a dreamy sort of quality. And that's where the anthology sort of quality comes in, is because he's reading it from a book. Like the stories in the movie are from a book. And there's only 2 stories. So I don't really know if it's like an anthology, if it's only 2 things. But I don't know. I don't know what else to call it if it's not,
It's kind of into parts and stuff like that. Yeah. And like, you don't really got to give like a full breakdown of the plot, but if you could just give like a quick like summary, just like kind of like,
bullet point, just kind
of bullet points, like what happens, kind of, but not like you don't gotta go crazy in depth.
Yeah, no. Okay, so there's this guy who I'm pretty sure is played by the director. I'm almost 100% certain that it's the director. I can't remember, but he's like in a gang. I don't even know. They have gangs in Germany, I guess. Yeah. He's in a gang. He's addicted to, I'm assuming, heroin. I don't really know what it was. Yeah. But he comes home and gets in like an argument with his parents and stuff. He's like, oh, I'm a teenager.
I can do what I want.
Yeah. And then, so he grabs this book, which is the stories that are in the movie, are in this book. He brings it to his sister's room and reads these stories to her. And then, again, the first half is like a slasher, kind of boring. I was kind of like, when I was watching this part of the movie, I was kind of like not sure if I wanted to stick with it. It's like a pretty standard slasher. This guy like escapes from a mental asylum and he's like pretending to be somebody else, I think. And like this girl goes on a date with him because he tricks her or whatever. And I think he leaves her in the car to go into a store or like a restaurant or something like that. And then she hears on the radio like the insane patient that escaped from the asylum is on the streets and stuff. And like he's killed a few people at this point. Like he kills like one of the doctors or something like that, and then he runs over that guy.
Yeah.
And then I think there's like a cop or somebody who's like hunting this guy, and he ends up saving her and stuff like that. I can't remember. I think he has like a shotgun or something like that. I really, every time I've watched this movie or skimmed through it, I zone out at this point because it's like, it's not a particularly interesting.
It literally kind of sounds like a story that you would actually be read if somebody wrote some kind of like what's that story with the dude with the hook hand or whatever. It's kind of leaning on that a little bit. So at this point the brother is reading the story to her as that was happening. And then what, it goes into like the thing about the priest.
It goes into this second story about a priest who
and he's reading this story.
This is a second part. It's kind of confusing. It's even kind of confusing when you're watching it. It's not it's clear but at the same time not. I don't know. So the second story is about a priest who's a very, very bad guy. And you don't know that he's a priest at first. It shows this girl who's like jogging or on a bike ride or something like that. And she gets tackled by this mustache German balding guy.
This freak.
And then a rape scene happens.
Oh no.
And a murder happens.
Oh no.
A funeral happens.
Oh god.
Who's conducting the funeral?
Oh no.
Yeah. The guy who raped and killed that girl is the priest in this German town who's conducting the funeral for this girl that he raped and murdered.
Every time you tell me that part, I'm just always like, that is so fucked up to hear. I don't know. It's just so fucked up.
And as fucked up as that is, that's the part that kind of drew me back into the movie because I'm like, holy shit, man.
That's very dramatic.
Yeah. So in this little German town, you got this priest, and then you got this really big dumb guy who's like getting bullied by all the other towns members because all these murders are happening, rapes and murders are happening, and they think it's the big dumb guy, so they just beat the shit out of him all the time. I don't know why they wouldn't just kill him if they think it's him and he's murdering multiple people, but whatever.
They don't want to murder someone and get in trouble themselves.
That's true, I guess.
But then again, the people on Elm Street weren't afraid to do that to Freddy, so I don't really know why they're being pussies about it over there. But...
And they really don't want to believe that this priest guy is the one doing it because you don't want to believe that.
Oh yeah, why would it be like the bald dude with the mustache?
Yeah,
but that's a priest. This freaky ass dude.
So more murders happen. Every time someone gets murdered, they beat up this fucking big guy. Eventually, one of the workers who beats up this big guy is at home, and he gets killed. It shows you the priest killing this guy, and I think his wife, and then doing like a weird blood sacrifice thing with his body, which shows you, it's like a flashback scene. All these movies have dream scenes in them, or like significant like visions kind of, you know, whether they're like flashbacks or dreams. This guy became a priest not in service to God, but in service to the devil, who appears as this weird cloaked goat man in this flashback, who tells him that he needs to become a priest in order to sway people so he can sacrifice them to Satan or whatever. And so he does this weird blood sacrifice and then kills himself. There's a lot of blood in this scene. He's rubbing blood all over his naked German bald body.
What's that thing he says in the one pretty popular screenshot? He's like dying's good for the soul or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. So yeah, after this point, the priest and the worker and his wife are all dead in the house, and this is like the boiling point for the workers. One of these guys teams up and just beats the fuck and kills he kills the big dumb guy, basically. Very brutally. I think he fucking like spears him with the pitchfork and stuff like that. He like kills him and throws the pitchfork into his head. And that night, the guy who did that, there's a lot of interlocking murders between these guys. It's kind of hard to word. So this guy goes to bed, and then this is where the whole like hell thing happens. You know, it starts storming outside or something. The cross on his wall falls off and catches on fire.
Oh, I've seen this scene.
Yeah, the pitchfork guy who dies, the big dumb guy, he turns into a zombie and starts walking around, I think with the pitchfork still in his head or something like that. He's like walking around. And then you have the hell scene, which is a very interesting, very gross depiction of hell. It's there's like guns and stuff, you know, there's like people like running around grabbing, you know, bits of people's bodies and eating them and retreating into little holes and stuff like that, and there's like piles of corpses everywhere. And you have like the guy walking off into the this hallway full of fog with like a sword. He's like dragging a sword in somebody's head or something like that. And this goes on for like 10-15 minutes, just showing you probably the worst stuff in the entire movie, and not like bad, but like worst in terms of like it's just gross and violent. Yeah, and then the torture scene immediately follows that with the guy who committed the final murder in the movie, kills the guy with the pitchfork. He's being tortured by, I don't even know how to describe it, like a cloaked guy with nails in his head, and then like a guy with really sharp teeth.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into super details here, but they end up like drilling his teeth with like a power drill and ripping him in half with these chains.
Scooped his eye out.
Yeah, they do like a full-on like Hellraiser, you know, reverse chain
fucking
hooks.
ripped his legs apart.
Yeah, and then movie ends. After that, it cuts back to the guy. He's killed his sister. It zooms out of his little sister with like a knife sticking out of her, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my god.
And then it ends when he shoots himself, and then you see the moon.
Oh man.
And the moon is like red and on fire or whatever, and then the credits roll. And that's the movie. That's the entire movie. It's kind of pointless. Yeah. It's kind of pointless violence, but
I mean, I feel like we should have said this before. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you know, major spoilers here.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
If you didn't realize by now, it's major spoilers.
Yeah. To be fair, I didn't go into as much detail as I could have. I think I think you're expecting violence when you go into this kind of movie, so you know that stuff like that is going to happen. But yeah. Yeah.
Well, seems like a pretty cool movie. I mean, if you could. Would you like recommend this? And what would you rate a movie like this? Like, out
it's
of 10?
hard. I've tried. Like on my Letterboxd, and I know Letterboxd, whatever. I've had a hard time like rating it. I think I've re-rated this movie like 2 or 3 times. The more I've thought about it, because I think originally I gave it like 2.5 stars because I was like, what do I rate a movie like this? And then I think I changed my mind. I think now I have it at like 3.5, because it's not like an amazing movie. It's not like a movie that I'm like, you need to go out of your way to watch this movie right now.
Yeah.
But like if you're into this kind of movie, like if you're into gore movies or shocking, you know, extreme movies, I think, I would recommend it. To like an average horror fan, I would say probably not. It's not like a great movie, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's as fucked up as it is to say, it's a fun watch. So I don't know. I guess I would rate it like 3 stars, 3 out of 5.
Okay, cool.
1 thumb up.
That's pretty good. 1 thumb up, yeah. All right, well that's pretty cool. And I guess the next movie we're talking about Blood Tide.
Yeah.
Well, Blood Tide, released in 1982. It's an English movie, you know, from the United Kingdom and stuff like that. We got in the lead, we got Martin Cove, we got James Earl Jones, and we got Deborah Shelton. There's other people in the movie. Those are just the main leads, I'd say. You know, so we've got Neil, and then his girlfriend
Wife.
Oh yeah, his wife.
Which I wouldn't have guessed that from the movie unless they said it, but I didn't really. I don't know.
I don't even get her name. I didn't even get the wife's name. I don't know her name. Anyway, so there's this blonde woman in Neil, and he's like a Chad kind of character.
Oh yeah.
And basically, just like a quick summary of this movie is like, you've got Neil and his wife. They're kind of on this honeymoon situation. They were sent there by his dad to find his sister, and they go to this Greek island, and they're realizing some weird stuff is going on. They finally find Neil's sister, Madeline. She's there. She's acting weird. She's with James Earl Jones' character, Fry, and his, like, lover kind of, relationship character, Barbara. And, again, they're just realizing some weird stuff is going on with Madeline. And basically panic ensues kind of within the town. Like, they're not, like, panicking as hard as they probably should, but but it's probably because this has happened to them, before. This happened to that town before, this island. Because James Earl Jones' character he's studying, along with Madeline, this cavern underneath, like, somewhere in the ocean that was, like, buried a long time ago from, like, an earthquake, and it hides this ancient water god monster that has been, like, blocked away pretty much by, I believe, like, civilization. They don't really go into detail about that, but he's been bricked away. He's been sealed off from...
He's bricked for sure.
Yeah, he's bricked... Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Yeah, no, he's bricked up. But, like, James Earl Jones' character pretty much, releases this monster. Not going to go into detail how he does that, but, he does it. And I don't know why his character does this. This is something that Trent kind of said. He's like, okay, but why did he do that?
Yeah.
I'm going to say he did that out of some kind of archaeological interest or something. I don't know. Like, just like, what's in here? What's in this cave? Why is this sealed off? Maybe he didn't even know there was a water god. Maybe he thought there was riches or something in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hate on the movie too bad for not going into some of these deeper things. It's like a early 80s monster flick. I'm not really going to be like, they didn't go into super great detail about these things. It's like, whatever. Like, you're here for the monster. You're here for the plot, I guess. You're here for the characters, I guess. You're here to see people get eaten. You're here for the horror. I'm just going to kind of move on from that. And, so after that, people start getting eaten. They're like, oh man, and then by near the end part, Madeline has been very weird this entire movie, the sister, and she's got this painting that she's found that's like really old. It's paintings of multiple religious icons and stuff like that, and she's peeled back the third layer, and she's living in this like nun house basically with like nuns and stuff like that, and the third layer is like a painting made before Christ, I guess, of this water god with like a hard-on erection.
It's huge.
Yeah, it looks like a naked woman below him, like giving herself to the monster or whatever. And the big thing about this is in the beginning of the movie, you see the townspeople, like probably, I don't know, like 100, 200 years or something before the film takes place in 82. They're marking up this woman with like this paint insignia on her forehead, and they're sending her out on a raft into that cavern to be basically sacrificed. And now, I kind of thought upon first viewing of this film last year that he eats them. Mm-hmm. And now I'm thinking that he doesn't eat them and that he fornicates with these virgins. And now I know you're thinking, like, Devin, that's ludicrous. Why would you think that? I don't know, but I just have a feeling that's what's happening here. I don't have any proof. I just
don't know why else it would have to be virgins, and why he would have a huge raging boner in this
depiction of him.
Yeah.
And that is making me think like there's definitely some sexual undertones here with this whole thing. I don't know.
There's a mother who dies in the movie in the water.
Yeah.
And she gets eaten.
Yes.
She's not a virgin. She has a child.
Yeah, and what we see is usually the victims are whole. They're still they're still together. I mean, Barbara, when she was killed, unfortunately in the movie, spoiler by the way, Barbara gets killed. Yeah. She's not like a main character. She's probably around for like 20 minutes of the film. So you're not going to be like, oh, my favorite character. I thought she was a pretty good character.
Yeah.
Very free spirit kind of character, and you know, kind of sucks that she had to die.
Yeah.
For the plot, but basically you see her limbs are detached in certain areas, but she's still whole for the most part, as well as the other victim of this water god beast.
Yeah.
And
the girl that goes missing while they're out.
Yeah. And they're pretty much whole. However, the mother, when she jumps in to save her child, she gets, like, basically, you realize at this point this monster is humanoid. It, like, puts its hand in the mother's, like, guts and, like, takes her guts out and, like, is chewing on them. James Earl Jones' character Fry looks underwater as he's saving the girl and sees this thing with, like, some organs in its mouth, and it's like, and he's just like, oh shit, and you know, he needs to get out of there.
Yeah.
And that's what's making me think, and then, you know, again, with the sexual undertones, they keep kind of relaying this message of the virgin is ready to give herself to him.
Yeah,
I'm like thinking, like, give herself. Like, I guess that could mean eat her. But then, when Madeline, you know, basically, the end part where Madeline gets to the cave, she's doing all these, like, you know, she's like, it's very sexual.
It's very erotic.
I don't know.
Erotic.
Yeah, that's the best way I could describe it. Like, you see her on this stone, waiting for the beast to come for her, and she's like, she's kind of like crooning and like, grinding and moaning, and
there's water everywhere.
She's like really moist,
yeah,
and her nipples are very prominent in this wet shirt. Yeah, like, no, it's like, I don't know, man. Like, oh man, and in the first scene, the virgin, she, like, stands up and her boobs are, like, completely exposed.
Yeah.
This is a very boob-savvy movie, so if, you know, for those people out there that like some boobs in their horror movies, I know that's, like, a real, like, oh, come on, Devin, that's not why we're watching these movies. Yeah, no, some of these people are. You know how I know that? Because when I was a teenager, I searched for movies that had boobs in them. Because I liked horror movies and I liked boobs, and I didn't have access to that because I was, like, a teenager, you know, I didn't have a phone yet and stuff, so... And I just know there's some dudes that like that stuff, and I'm not judging. I'm not trying to be out here like, hey, you're a freak because you do that. You know, I'll get to my whole what I think of the movie and my recommendation afterwards. But you know, just that just needs to be said here. A lot of boobs in this movie. Not like a crazy amount that you would find in an average like 80s slasher.
It's not like a trauma movie, like Toxic Avenger or something.
It's not like a Slumber Party Massacre-esque movie. We're going to be seeing a lot of boobs and stuff like that. But basically, there's the first scene where you see the virgin's boobs. Then I wasn't gonna bring this up, but I feel like it needs to be brought up. It's kind of weird. I don't know why this was done. I don't know what the director, what his direction was with this idea. But basically, there's this scene that I was talking about with like the mother who was not a virgin. She got eaten, you know, her guts pulled out. She was trying to save her daughter who gets pushed into the water. Well, her daughter's pushed in the water, and then all of a sudden you get this weird underwater shot of a woman's breasts out. She's like underwater. She's got her breasts out. And this is not the mother. The mother is very much clad in dark clothing, very unrevealing. The daughter had one, like, pair of, like, I think, like, shorts on or some kind of under thing, and then she had, like, this very loose white top.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know why they showed this. It was not, okay, first of all, it was a child.
Yeah.
So when the child was underwater, I'm assuming this was a shot of the child. But this was not a child that they showed. It was an adult woman with, like, her breasts out. I don't know why they depicted that. I don't know why they were like, oh,
it's like a split second, too.
It's like a split second, but you see matured woman's breasts, and then you're like, and then there's, like, this woman, this girl, and then her mom. It's just like, and then you see the mom get, like, punctured in the guts. So you know that wasn't her boobs.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not trying to sound weird here. I just don't know why they just were like, let's put a grown woman underwater so we can show boobs. Like, it's a child. I don't know what listen, I'm not trying to be like, some predatory behavior, but, like, I'm just saying, like, it's weird. I don't know what the choice was behind that, but it was there. So there's those boobs. You don't have to feel guilty. It's not a kid. I guarantee you. That's a full-grown woman's boobs.
It's a very, very much larger woman than the person that was
that's a grown woman. And then basically there's the you see a little bit of glimpses here and there of Barbara or whatever, but I don't really think you see her boobs. And then Madeline, Deborah Shelton in this movie plays Madeline. You see some definite nip shots.
Yeah,
like there's some hard nipples in this movie. I don't know. All I'm saying, again, back to what we were saying. I just want to get that out of the way. Say there's some boobs in this movie.
Well, the main guy. is showing his cleavage off the
Oh
entire
man,
fucking time.
dude, Martin Cove, Neil, his fucking man boobs are out the entire movie. This man just he can't wear a shirt. He's wearing so many bougie clothing in this movie. It's crazy. Like, this man is, like, decked out.
Anytime he's wearing a shirt, it's either wide open, or, like, the only button that is buttoned is the bottom one, or he's just not wearing a shirt at all.
There's that one scene at the end where he's wearing, like, the vest thing. He's wearing short shorts with, like, a vest. And no shirt underneath. No anything. Just a vest.
Yeah. It's great.
That guy's awesome. That guy's hella funny. Anyway, then, at the end, there's some definite sexual undertones. I don't know. I'm just saying, I have a feeling this beast is having his way with these virgins. I feel like it's more than just like, I'm going to eat them or something. I don't know. Maybe people are crazy. Maybe we're like, you're looking into this way too deep. This is just a monster flick. They're eating them.
Or, alternatively, there could be people, like, this is, like, very obvious, and there are people who are like, how do you guys not get that this is supposed to be sexual? Like, I don't know. I feel like it's implied mostly, but then we're
just here giving our opinions about this stuff. I'm not like some like crazy researching horror.
I feel like there's
stuff.
some parts of the movie where it's very obviously like sexual undertones or overtones, and then there's other parts where it's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe people will be like, these are overtones, dude. This is obvious. But also, there's a point that needs to be made, though, about Barbara. She wasn't a virgin. It's pretty played off that her and Fry are in a sexual relationship.
Yeah.
But the thing was, we saw that she had been eaten a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That is a little bit weird. Maybe this thing doesn't eat the full body of its victim, and it'll eat some of them. But we don't have any proof, though, that the original virgin in the first scene, and then the other girl that was supposedly eaten, we're assuming she's a virgin here, she didn't have any, like, amputations, so, I don't know. This is purely speculation. I mean, Trent, would you back me up on this at all? Like,
yeah. I felt like it was, I wouldn't say I felt like it was obviously sexual, but I definitely do feel like that was part of the movie, pretty big part of the movie. Yeah.
Well, anyway, also, something needs to be said about this movie. You see probably 10 or 15 seconds total of this monster.
I think the monster's in the movie probably 2 or 3 times, but it's only ever for, like, a couple seconds at a time.
Like 1 or 2 or 3 seconds at most.
Whoever the guy's wife is, I think she sees the monster in, like, a dream.
Yeah.
Or something, but it's, like, the monster's mouth for, like, a second.
Oh, yeah, it was Madeline. She had, like, a vision.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Also, this monster at one point kills a bunch of nuns. It's really brutal. That's when you realize this monster's more humanoid. Like, it can probably maybe even use weapons. Pretty interesting monster. Wish we could have gotten to see more of it. I would have liked to. I know it's like, well, it gives more mystique to not see the monster, but I feel like there needs to be usually a full exposure of this monster, at least to where you can kind of get a good glimpse of it.
I just feel like this isn't that kind of movie,
Yeah.
It's not that kind of movie where, like, hide the monster.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it makes the monster cooler. It's just not that kind of movie.
We didn't even get a big reveal at the end of the movie, either. There's no big showdown where the monster's fighting James Earl Jones' character or Neil or anything. Yeah, there's nothing like that. You get, like, a small, like, James Earl Jones gets bitten in the crotch by this monster and then, like, lights up the C4 and then it blows up the monster.
Yeah.
By the way, if you haven't already noticed already, we basically say everything about this movie. So if you want to go see this movie, most of it's being spoiled, but still, it's weird. This movie doesn't really seem to hide a lot of the monster. Doesn't really want to like not show it till its final reveal or anything like that. But because it doesn't show it.
Yeah.
I saw a review of this movie where it was very generous in the amount of times they thought that the monster had been revealed at 45 seconds. I'm thinking less than 15 seconds total you actually get any reveal of this actual monster.
Yeah.
So...
also the explosion at the end of the movie. Yeah. I feel like the explosion would have you believe that he blew up, like, the entire island.
Yeah.
That was a huge explosion.
Yeah. And it didn't even bury that hole or anything. I thought that hole was going to get buried. The opening, that the monster originally got out of. But no, it blew up the monster, though. The monster's gone. There was no blood tied too, so we can assume that monster's dead.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
No.
But overall, I would give this movie, I don't know, out of 5, I'd probably give it 2.5.
I would have to agree.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
But James Earl Jones is in this, and that just shows you Darth Vader couldn't even save this movie.
Yeah. Well, what about the scene that really shocked you the first time?
Oh my god, I didn't even talk about this. All right. When I first saw this movie, I was like, all right, this movie's okay, whatever. And then at the end, so like Neil is saving his sister Madeline, and he smacks her, gives her a good smack, and then puts the oxygen mask on her, and they get to the thing. He calls her baby. I'm like, it's kind of a weird thing to call your sister. His wife is not out there at sea to fight this thing, so she's like somewhere else, And then he gets her on the boat, and then, he kind of gives her like a brotherly, like, I guess, like loving kiss on the forehead. And then she kind of looks up at him, when she's like, when he's like comforting her and drying her off kind of after the whole traumatic event they've been through, and she fucking like kisses him. It's like a passionate kiss. Like akin to like Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back or something. Like I was like, what the hell? And it's like they know their brother and sister. Like it's not like a hidden thing. And this dude's married. This dude's wife is on the island.
And I'm just gonna say it was not like a peck on the mouth. It was like a full on like they were kind of making out for a second there, and then I don't know.
It was a passionate kiss.
Yeah.
That's very weird. I don't know what is with like. I don't think it's just like an 80s thing either. This is like a kind of just universal American thing. Maybe not even American. Maybe just cinema in general, where for some reason the female heroine, like the female hero, they have to kiss. Yeah. That's just something that has to happen for some reason. And in this movie, though, I'm like, that's so weird. They're siblings. Like
also after all the like themes of like sexual like fertility and stuff like that, and like the sex sea monster with the big dong, like I don't know.
It was really anyway, this is a very sexual movie. And also yeah, so I'm gonna give it 2.5, maybe 3. Yeah. But upon second watching, I did enjoy it a little bit more. One complaint I had to begin with when I first watched this movie on the original review, it's kind of slow. Mm-hmm. And again, with the lesser reveals of the monster, it goes even a little bit more slow. Yeah. And this is something that you, Trent, also expanded upon. When after you saw it, you said it, you thought it was slow.
I think the early middle of the movie is pretty, like, slow. And I have no problem with, like, slower pacing in movies.
That's okay. Like,
it's fine. But for some reason, this movie was just, like, it was kind of a drag at the first part of the, early on in the middle, I would say. Because it starts to pick up a little bit towards... later half of the movie, it picks up definitely. But that early middle definitely was... Yeah,
it's a killer.
Yeah.
Also, this movie, you can find this movie on Tubi for free. You can probably maybe even find it on Pluto for free. Tubi and Pluto seem to share a lot of the same library and stuff like that, a lot of the same content. This movie also got an Arrow Videos release, a very cool new cover, and also its original cover. This movie, for one, I'd like to say, has a lot of really cool promotional movie posters.
When I was making the original draft of this episode of the podcast, I was looking on Google Images, and there were a lot of really cool posters and covers and stuff like that.
Yeah, it also simultaneously has some pretty bad ones, because apparently a lot of, like, movie distributors falsified this as like a what is it? It's a certain kind of thing, like it's open domain.
Oh, public domain.
Yeah, it was inaccurately considered a public domain film and was redistributed multiple times with different like DVD slipcovers and stuff like that are very lame.
Yeah.
And yeah, apparently it's not though. It's not open domain. So it's like, that's kind of crazy. So yeah, I mean, really cool movie covers and then really just bad ones.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those movies. But honestly, I would recommend this. I mean, I guess. I don't know. If you like monster movies and you know what you're getting yourself into with this review, check it out.
One thing that I can definitely say is that this is like one of the most 70s feeling movies from 1982 that I've ever watched.
The male lead male. Yeah,
it feels almost like it could have been from 1972 sometimes, because I'm like, Jesus. Just like the way the actors look and just the pacing of the movie just definitely feels older.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, now I guess we're going to move on to Possum.
Yeah.
Yeah, Possum and
Yeah.
So, this movie was directed by Matthew Holson, is that correct?
Wholeness, I think.
Wholeness, okay, that's it.
2018.
Matthew Holness, yeah, 2018. When this movie first came out, I saw trailers for it. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
I never got around to watching it. I didn't know where to watch it. Streaming platforms, I feel like for me, were pretty, difficult to come by. With like good horror cinema and stuff like that for free.
Yeah.
And I didn't really know about Tubi at this time. I don't know the exposure that Tubi had either. You watched this movie before me.
Yeah, I watched this movie a couple months ago.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I watched this movie today.
Yeah.
I wanted to watch it because I wanted to get on par with you and be able to actually talk about it, have a good conversation about the movie for this podcast. The first time we did this, I had not seen it, so I was listening to basically a synopsis by Trent, but now I have a little bit of things to say. I saw the same movie, so probably don't have a lot of different things to say.
Yeah.
This isn't a super deep movie. This is a movie where it's kind of, not face value. You might see this movie and think it's about like a monster or something like that, given the promotional material and trailers and stuff, but it's really not. So I guess in a way it goes a little bit deeper than you're, given to believe.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to promotional material for this movie, it kind of has the same problem that I think The Lighthouse had for a lot of people, which I think The Lighthouse is probably like a perfect movie, but I think they've put all the craziest stuff and just kind of shoved it in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember being kind of scared of this movie for a while.
Yeah.
I was kind of nervous to watch it because I was like, I don't know if when I watch this movie, if I'm going to have nightmares for like months or something. But this movie definitely seemed like up my alley when I first watched. Just the tone. Mm-hmm. And the creature, quote unquote, that you see in the trailer definitely seemed like something that I would have really enjoyed.
The uncanny spider.
Yeah. The uncanny spider.
I mean, I don't know what it's named. But
I think he calls it the possum, but like...
Oh, it's possum. Yeah,
but it doesn't really look like it. Obviously doesn't look like a possum.
I just call it the uncanny spider because, where the script originated and stuff like that. You know, the uncanny anthologies that Holness wrote for this and stuff like that. But, he also looks like a spider.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, like, a old, like, English slang term for pedophile is rock spider. So...
Wow. I didn't know that.
I just decided to call it the uncanny spider. I don't know. It's a cool name.
Yeah, I think the main character of this movie is, like, a poet, but he also draws this stuff, like...
Yeah.
And
he was, I believe he was, like, a ventriloquist or a puppeteer of some sort.
Yeah, he's a puppeteer. Yeah, and he does like the puppet show.
Yeah.
And I think like something traumatic happens where he does like with the puppet that he has, the possum.
Yeah.
Where like he does like a puppet show and I think it like bombed. It did like terribly, and it's kind of like haunting him at some point. That's something I took away. I think he must have like had a bad experience with this particular puppet or something. And
maybe. I mean, that's what I was kind of thinking at first. I think overall, like, the puppet kind of represents, his trauma.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He's trying to escape this thing.
Yeah.
So, well, of course, I'm assuming he did puppet shows with this thing and it went awry because it's fucking scary.
It's terrifying.
And you can't show children this thing, like his uncle said.
And it is definitely like an allegory for the trauma that. And I don't think it's in a way that's like too obscure. I think it's pretty easy to tell.
It becomes understandable at a certain point that he throwing this thing away, but it always coming back. Is in his head. He can't escape this thing, or merely that he's not really throwing it away. He's not really getting rid of his trauma.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody else's takes on this. I haven't really watched like a lot of other like summaries or anything like that. Like,
I think that's kind of spot on, though. I think that this movie is really about facing trauma and
Philip trying to get rid of this trauma, but not really facing it until he does.
Yeah. To quote Zaster, trauma will always linger. I think that's a good kind of synopsis of this movie, honestly.
That's very true. Honestly, what can I say about this movie? A couple things I really liked. It was different than what I thought it was going to be, but it was also pretty terrifying. I mean, I wouldn't say there was like jump scares. I really
There's
didn't
like one jump scare, but it wasn't like.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It depends on who you kind of ask. I mean, you know, different people react to different things, and also there's like, I wouldn't really say there's one big one, but I would say there's like a couple that you maybe are like, oh, I jumped a little bit at that or whatever. But something I could say about this movie, first like 10 minutes says a lot without any dialogue.
Oh yeah.
It's just kind of Philip roaming. You kind of see the kidnapped kid, you know. You see him conversing with him. Kid doesn't want to talk to him.
Yeah.
Younger man, teenager probably. I assume he is. He's in school, high school probably, in the UK. And by the way, I'm assuming it takes place in the UK.
Yeah.
I don't want to be completely like, what are you talking about? But I totally got like a vibe from everybody that it was in the UK. So if someone's like, this movie's not in the UK, I'd be like, oh fuck, well, I don't know where the fuck I got that vibe then. I must be crazy. But anyway, yeah, and then you see basically just like there's not a lot of talking. And then another thing I really like, I like the score. The score was apparently heralded by like critics and stuff like that.
The atmosphere of the movie overall is very, very well done.
When he's going to the barracks, I think that's what they're talking about, the barracks, that one scene where he throws it into like the little creek. I like the score during that. That's really good. It's really eerie and kind of just like, oh shit, you know.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then one thing that was kind of ridiculous that I drew comparison to was it was giving me Night of the Living Dead Part 2 Goosebumps vibes. That episode kind of is...
Oh, Night of the Living Dummy?
Night of the Living Dummy, that's right, yeah. Sorry, wrong thing. Night of the Living Dummy, Goosebumps, that girl's trying to get rid of Slappy, keeps throwing him away, he keeps coming back. And I would say in many ways this is similar to that, except it's actually got something behind it. It's more than just a child's story.
This is like a grown-up Night of the Living Dummy.
Yeah. Maybe some people would be like, that's so elementary. You make that comparison.
So unfair.
Yeah. But that was my first horror experience was Goosebumps as a kid. My dad would never show me like something like fucking like Possum.
No, yeah.
So, you know, and I didn't see a lot of scary shit growing up. I think the first like horror related thing I ever saw as like a kid was Army of Darkness, and my dad showed me that. But that's like probably the least scary. I mean, again, that's my opinion of the Evil Dead franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, of the original trilogy. Okay, like, you know, if we're talking about like, you know, in general, yeah, I'd probably just say Army of Darkness. It's not really supposed to be scary. It's almost made a full-fledged you know, transformation into an action.
Yeah.
And anyway, yeah, I grew that kind of idea in my head, Night of the Living Dummy, and I just wanted to say that. Also, you know, ventriloquist dummy, puppet, you know.
Yeah.
Kind of a similar idea going on there. I'm definitely not drawing any conclusions here saying, this man stole...
This guy ripped off R.L. Stine.
He stole his idea. That's what I'm saying. I just saying I drew that comparison, and I thought that was interesting. It kind of made an interesting parallel for me. I thought the dialogue was really cool, though, when there was dialogue, you know.
The acting is great in this movie, I think.
Really good. Philip has a lot of really good lines. The actor is great. He really gets across the trauma. He really gets across, you know...
He's really good at tricking you, too. And I think, like, because I think... you said this earlier, I think. A lot of different points, the movie kind of almost tricks you into thinking, like, oh, maybe...
Philip is the child murderer.
Yeah.
He's doing this stuff.
Yeah.
And near the end, especially, you see him break down. He's sweating. He's just, like, falling apart. His you know, Uncle Morris is gone. He's just panicking. He's falling apart. This puppet is just destroying him.
Yeah.
And the puppet being his trauma.
Yeah.
He can't escape it. And, you know, man, you just also, like, another thing that he's really good at, you can tell this uncle has done something fucked up to him.
Yeah.
He's getting this very apparent childlike, like, scared stance anytime he's around his uncle. He seems very fearful of his uncle. He when he walks to him, when he talks to him, he's got his head down. Sometimes just very scared. He has this particular walk he does with his hands where he almost seems like a scared child.
Yeah.
And that's given across in a really good way that you can almost tell immediately, like, he has a very unhealthy relationship with this person. I don't know what it is. You know, assumably, you know, you can say like, you know, this uncle did something fucked up.
Yeah.
And he really gives that away. I really like the scene where the uncle is reading his poetry about Possum, and he comes in there and he says, you know, he sits down after the uncle's just said a bunch of sick shit and whatever, and he says, "Why didn't you burn Maurice? Why wasn't it you?" And the uncle's just like laughing and shit, and it's just really sick because I don't know, that line really stuck with me because it was just like you could just see in his eyes he's just like really meant to. He's just like, "Why didn't you fucking burn with my parents? Why didn't you die? You know, like you're the black sin in my life that has soaked these walls and just completely unfiltered my life and unraveled me in every way." And it really shows with something like that, a piece of dialogue like that.
Yeah.
And he just really just looks dead inside at some points. He just seems so lost and gone, almost like any bit of humanity he had is died.
Yeah.
And it really shows. It's sad. And it really is like it goes into Philip's character showing how traumatized he is. So
and that's what trauma does to people, and it can take a lot of different forms. And in this movie, I think they communicate that really well by like visually showing the puppet, which is, you know, that's the entire point of the movie. But I think they did a great job kind of tackling that kind of topic.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, there's not really much to say, other than what we've already said.
I do remember being kind of disappointed when I first saw it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. I remember the first time I watched it, I've only seen the movie once, but I do remember initially being like kind of underwhelmed. Not disappointed. Underwhelmed is probably a better word. Where I was expecting it to be a little more otherworldly, a little more paranormal, maybe.
Yeah.
Which it's definitely not that kind of movie. But the more I think about it and the more that I've had to like sit with it, I think I appreciate it a lot more. I think that everything else was done really well.
Yeah.
And I think that was really just because I kind of felt misled, maybe. I'm not the kind of person who was like, movie wasn't scary. Yeah, that means it's bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not that kind of person, but I definitely was expecting to be a little more frightened, maybe in like a in your face kind of way, rather than a lingering kind of thing that the movie does. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I just other things I can say. The puppet was really fucking creepy. I really was not excited to see it like crawl and stuff, and the rhymes that Philip would say about Possum were really like creepy.
Yeah. Like
that thing about, you know, something about sticking out his tongue and then watch him run or something that really had me like, oh fuck. And there's a lot of good scenes with the puppet. It really is a lot of exposure for that thing, and it's really creepy. And the whole ending is really crazy. I'm not really going to get into that. I really don't think I need to. Just watch the movie yourself. It's on Tubi for free. It's a pretty good movie. One thing I can say about this movie, it did feel a little bit like a chore. Halfway through, I started feeling like man, like I don't really feel like it needed to be as long as it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I would say I liked it. Out of 5, probably give it like, I don't know, I'd probably give it like a 3. I'm not really gonna eat this movie's ass. I know a lot of people do, and then also there's some people that, you know, probably are like, oh, it's not even that good, but I'm gonna give it a 3. It wasn't bad. I liked it.
I have a harder time rating this movie, I think, than the other two. I don't know. I want to say maybe a 3, maybe even a 3.5. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have to say 3.
Yeah.
3 stars, because
just overall, and this just kind of speaks to maybe our opinion about our kinds of movies. Maybe this wasn't our type of thing. The promotional material definitely gave it a different vibe, but that definitely shouldn't scurry you away. Sometimes in movies, that does a good duty of service.
I think if you're a fan of movies like maybe like Hereditary.
Hmm.
Movies in that sort of vein.
Yeah.
Probably.
Minus the paranormal stuff for the most part.
Yeah, yeah. I think
this movie definitely gives you more of a paranormal vibe, wherever it's actually not really paranormal.
I think mostly thematically and like atmosphere.
Atmosphere for sure.
They're similar.
I've not seen Hereditary, but I can say the atmosphere is one thing I've heard a lot about that movie. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna say, I agree with that.
Listen. I think Hereditary is maybe a little better than Possum. I don't think that most people would disagree with that.
Say it loud and proud.
But
just go for it.
Hereditary is a better movie. But I would say that they do have a lot of things in common in terms of the score even.
People in the comments like, oh my god, how'd you fucking say that?
What are you talking about? The movie's not even scary.
The ending is the only good part. Are you fucking serious?
Oh my god. It's the burning moon of I don't know. Modern horror.
Modern horror paranormal movies.
God, I could never compare Burning Moon and Hereditary in any situation.
I haven't seen either of those movies, and I couldn't even say that. I couldn't even say it's a fair thing at all. Well, yeah, I thought Possum was pretty good. I would recommend it. I would say out of all these movies, I have not seen The Burning Moon, but I would say out of the 2 movies I've seen, out of the 3, I would definitely have to recommend Possum over Blood Tide, and I would for sure recommend Possum. I don't know if I would completely recommend Blood Tide to any given horror fan. I would say if you like monster movies, maybe I would, but even then, I would just say if you like maybe semi obscure 80s horror cinema. Sure, go for Blood Tide. But I would say overall, if you're a horror fan, go for Possum.
I would say even if you're not a horror fan, I think Possum would probably be the most appealing out of these 3 movies.
For sure. And especially over The Burning Moon. I haven't seen that movie, but I know enough about that movie. I've seen enough of that movie to know I'm not recommending that movie to anybody.
Yeah.
Unless you're like, oh, I'm super into gore, I'm super into this and that. I would just be like, first of all, I'd assume you've seen The Burning Moon, or I'd assume that's already on your watch list, and you know about it.
And it's a pretty niche thing, too, because it's like, what kind of gore? Because
it's not Saw.
Yeah.
You know, it's not Saw.
If someone likes, or even like Toxic Avenger, I would not recommend Burning Moon if you're a big fan of Toxic Avenger, because that's gore, but it's very funny. Whereas Burning Moon is less so funny. I did say that I did think some of the scenes were kind of funny, but
guys getting hit by cars, exploding.
Yeah. Just some of the acting too is pretty funny in that movie, because
I'm sure it is.
Compared to Possum and Blood Tide, the acting in Burning Moon is not to be spoken of. It's not really that kind of movie. Yeah, I would have to say that Blood Tide, the acting in that movie was not bad at all.
I think pretty enjoyable. I mean, sorry, I burped. Excuse me. Pretty funny dialogue too sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Pretty good characters, honestly.
Yeah, pretty enjoyable.
Nobody that I was like super like, this is like the coolest character ever, but like
Neil was fucking awesome. I thought he was pretty funny. Until he kissed his sister. Well, actually, okay, to be fair, I shit on Neil for a pretty long time after seeing this movie because I was like, this dude kissed his sister. It was actually Madeline. Yeah. Upon rewatching, Madeline went in for the kiss.
So he's redeemed.
Yeah, a little bit, but guess what? Neil still kissed his sister and pulled away. So Neil, you're a freak.
He went with it.
Yeah, he was like, I'm going with the flow. You're married, dude. That's your sister. What's wrong with you? Anyway, no, but either way, these are some pretty interesting picks. Check them out. If not, don't check them out.
If anything sounded interesting to you, go for it, because these are all...
Just wanted to review these movies. Hope you all enjoyed this. Any last words, Trent?
No.
Awesome. All right, well, there's our reviews. There's our kind of the summary of what's going on in these movies. So, Blood Tide, The Burning Moon, and Possum. Check them out. That sounds like your kind of thing. Well, anyway, peace out. Spooky Main out.
Yo.